What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hardworking Happy Hour. I'm Sean.
And I'm Catherine, and as always, we'll be breaking down all things trades, entrepreneurship, and turning your creativity into a passion career.
And this week, we are at a very special location. We're at JLC Live in Providence, Rhode Island, and we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Zach Dettmore from just a lot of things that we're going to get into. Yeah, he's from many things now. He's not just from one thing, so we're super excited to have him on the show and dive into some fun stuff. You excited?
Can I talk now?
Yes.
It is now.
We encourage it, yes.
Episode begins.
Hey, everyone. I will be here with you for the rest of the episode.
Yes, it is going to be all three of us chatting with our audience together, and I'm pretty excited about it because I guess we've sort of known each other for a couple years, both from New Jersey, both on the Instagrams.
Yep.
You know,
ran into each other. I think we met at Baltimore.
Yeah, I think that was the first time. Why do we have to leave the state to hang out?
I don't know.
I hate that.
Because we're both hustling like crazy when we're in Jersey. That's it.
That's true. That's very true. And yeah, it was cool to run into you here. I didn't know that you were going to be coming up here, but then I saw your story, so had to get you on the podcast. And
It's an honor.
Yeah.
why don't you start by just letting people know, if people don't know who you are, they should. Over 90,000 followers on Instagram, pretty big time.
Yeah, I'm pretty big, especially in my household.
Yeah.
Pretty household name there.
I'm like probably the biggest influencer in my household as well.
Yeah, I'm not a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been wanting to be in the trade since I was 8, and I was homeschooled, so I was able to start working in the trades at 13, and did that till now, pretty much. Started a business around 17.
So you started in the trades you got your first job at 13?
Yeah.
Was that like it was like a homeschool work program?
It was, I would call it child labor is what it was.
Yeah.
But it was a friend of ours whose uncle owned a construction company, and he was like, oh yeah, you can come here and shovel some mulch. And then it was like, help me put this fence in and sweep floors and, the basics, the very basics. I wasn't allowed to paint. I wasn't allowed to, I was
just an
$8 an hour guy.
Yeah. That's a good wage when you're 13.
It wasn't bad. I mean,
That's really
$8?
I bought my first house at 17. So
Dang.
I did all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
The irony there was the year was 2006. Not a great time to buy real estate.
Well, if you're 17 and you could afford a house in 2006, that's amazing. So you were doing pretty good.
I was. And I haven't been doing that well since. But maybe I'll pick up some tips from you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We're
just going to be throwing them out like crazy.
Yeah,
so
I heard
get your
this
notebook
is a
out.
financial podcast. So, yeah, I run a construction company now. I focused on remodeling kitchens and baths the last, 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And now I was trying to make that business more efficient, and I'm sort of realizing it's really difficult to make a business efficient the way I was running the business, which was self-performing.
Yeah.
Everything right through paint.
Yeah.
So I sort of taken a step back from that business, focusing on a cabinet installation company, and then doing the remodels as a PM. And performing the work that we're good at, but that company's mostly management now.
Okay. Yeah, it's really interesting because a couple things. I want to touch on like just the fact that you started so young in the trades, like even though you weren't necessarily on the tools, like you're not, installing cabinets at 13, but I think there's so much value that can be gained from just being around it. That's kind of how I grew up. My dad owned a construction company, and I would work with him in the summers and, after school or whatever. I was never I was cleaning up trash or whatever, not anything technical whatsoever. But I realized later on, like when I started my business, I didn't learn like a lot of, specific skills from working with him because I was mostly just like a laborer, but just being around the process was really valuable. later on. You don't realize all the little things that you pick up when, you're just on the job site.
Yeah, and I think it's a great time to learn the value of hard work.
Yeah.
And that is a skill in its own, is going out and working for 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
or being the hardest person working in the room, whatever it is. It's like, I think that's half the job is just working hard.
Yeah.
And the skills are, you can lose the skills pretty quick if you're not working all the time. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's something that you hear more and more now, like when people are having trouble hiring people, they're not so much worried about hiring somebody with skills. It's all about somebody that's going to work hard and have the right attitude and all that. So I think that's a huge one.
Yeah.
That's a
So
whole
when
topic there. All right.
You said you wanted to get in the trades when you were 8. Why? What was your little 8-year-old brain thinking?
I don't know. Honestly, I think I've always been the type of person that took things apart and then learned through that experience of disassembling something and putting it back together. That's how I learn.
Yeah.
And I can't read a book particularly well and get information that way. I can't, watch something visually and understand how it works. I really need to get in there and touch it and feel it and learn kinesthetically, if that's a word. So
I think it is, and that's a big word.
Right?
I'm proud of you.
Especially for someone like me who's a kinesthetic learner, using that word. It's impressive.
You've undervalued yourself.
So I don't know why, but we had this like homeschooling class, and you were supposed to write down goals, and it was like I wanted to own my own business by 20, and I wanted to build a house by such and such age, and I wanted to be a millionaire by such and such age. I haven't built a house and I'm not a millionaire, but I am good at setting goals.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, one thing that because we did have an episode on setting goals, an important thing about setting goals is, tracking them, keeping yourself accountable, but also being flexible and realizing that, this isn't necessarily my goal anymore, and that's okay.
Right.
You're not just giving up on it because it's hard. You just, hey, that's not
Sometimes
as important.
goals move. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be flexible. Pivot.
Yeah.
We pivot a lot. We're constantly pivoting.
And that's what you have to do. That's what keeps you alive these days, I think.
Exactly. I agree.
Is in our relationships, so much changes. So, I just like the trades a lot. I don't know why I knew it.
Did you have family in the trades, or did you?
No. My parents are pretty well educated, so they didn't really see that for me. I went to college pretty much just to sort of appease my parents. That was sort of what it was expected of me. And
sounds familiar.
I'm glad I did, because I learned things in college that sort of showed me different viewpoints, more from a psychological standpoint, that made me a more rounded person. But aside from that, I didn't get a lot of value from my college education, but luckily it was free, so that was good, because my mom was a professor, so I wasn't like burning up college debt while I did it. But yeah, I don't know. I always wanted to do it, and I had a lot of shame about it, over the years of being just a carpenter, or whether I was ever going to sort of have a real job. And I still struggle with that. Like I've got an injury right now, and I'm like, I guess it's time for you to hang up the tools. And I'm like, if you were standing at a desk for the last 20 years, you'd be jacked up.
Yeah.
In different ways. So, just always been interested in it.
Something else that I think is really interesting, like you're talking about, doing mostly kitchens and baths, I guess, too. And that seems like a pretty typical like specialization. But when you really break it down, like those two things have so much involved in them that it's almost not a specialization, because like if you're going all the way to finish and paint, like there's so much involved in that. There's framing, there's drywall, there's cabinetry, there's tile, there's trim work, there's paint, there's plus orchestrating electric, plumbing, all of that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like all of the things of construction packed into one room. The most important room in somebody's house that gets used all the time, that's inconveniencing them more than anything when it's not usable. So I think it's
It's
really
complex.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
complex. So, do you want to talk about kind of what you're trying to transition into? Because I think it's really interesting. As I've always said, you need to specialize. Like this day and age, like you need to have a specialization because there's so many people out there doing it, and if you're trying to do a little bit of everything, it's going to be really hard to like really grow your business. So I'd love to hear more about, this new business that you're trying to transition into, because it's almost like a hyper specialization, it sounds like.
Yeah. So you're 100% right about the kitchens and bathrooms. I decided a couple years ago I was going to walk away from.
I thought you said
sort of.
you're 100% right about the kids in the bathrooms.
Oh.
And I was like, what kids in the
Yeah,
bathrooms? Okay. Sorry, proceed.
I always wanted to specialize, but I think I also have that mindset where I like to make my life a little bit more complicated every day. But I got the kitchens and bathrooms to a point where I was pretty efficient. I was pretty good. We were profitable. My employees were very competent. I had it good, but not great, meaning I could never remove myself from the job for very long. And it's because of what you're saying. We'd do a very contemporary kitchen in a house built in 1980. We do a very traditional kitchen in a house built in 1890.
Yeah.
And some of them are on the side of a mountain. Some of them are in a high rise. Some of them are, a ranch. And I'm always trying to get things to a really efficient level so that I'm able to pay my employees very well and keep my prices low, that I don't have to be the highest bidder on every job, because I'm always afraid of the market crashing. How am I going to keep the business alive? And I've been trying my whole career to do that in the renovation business, and it's incredibly difficult. And what I'm realizing is I can specialize and be a manager and be an incredibly good manager. And if the plumber decides to do something his way one time and this plumber does it differently that time, like I can't control every single fitting and screw that goes into this project, but I can manage the project and do that. Or I could pick out part of that project and specialize in it. And for me, that was cabinet install, because I always liked it. I was always pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And when you do, high-end cabinet packages, you need to be a little bit better than, say, a finished carpenter would be, where the expectation is just like throw in a house full of trim.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do with the cabinet business is, if you're familiar with lean, basically lean out the business. So make it as efficient as possible. And take out the guesswork. So there's a process for everything, and how far can I take it?
Yeah.
So the last 2 months, that's what I've been doing. I ripped out everything in my van. Every tool that wasn't, essential for install is gone. And now we have, 2 sets of everything, and we have a saw inside, and we have everything we need ostensibly. Obviously, I'm going to improve on it. But, we've limited it down to the fasteners we need, and there's automatic inventory checks, and I want to see how far I can take it, to the fact where instead of in the remodeling company, it would usually take me 6 to 15 months before I'd turn a profit on a new employee.
Yeah.
Because it would take them that long to get a chance to tile and put a fence in and dig a hole and
Yep.
spackle and be nice to the client and, figure out how to reset their Wi-Fi when it goes out at 3 a.m. in a living remodel or whatever it is. I was losing money. So I'd like to say with the cabinet business, like, can we make this person profitable in a week with no skill? Or how quick can we do it?
Yeah.
Basically, so I can hopefully go on vacation sometime and know that the business is running like a top.
Yeah. I think that doesn't come as a huge surprise to me, just knowing like your van organization. I mean, I feel like I've seen you reorganize multiple vehicles over the course of the last couple of years, and you're always very methodical about it, super hyper organized. And it sounds like you're talking to yourself like, I'm not organized enough, not even close yet.
Yeah,
I need to
absolutely.
go so much further. And to me, looking at it, who is like so disorganized, that is like my biggest weakness by far. I look at your stuff and I'm like, oh my God, like that is the pinnacle of efficiency and organization. So it's interesting to like hear that different perspective and like just really see how far you can go. And it sounds like that challenge is what you really love the most is like, okay, I love the trades. I love doing this stuff, installing the cabinets, but how far, like almost like a game, like how far can I take this efficiency? How much can I like take out the guesswork and put processes in place so that this just basically installs itself?
Right.
Do you kind of see it like that? Like it's almost like a challenge to see how far you could take that side of it?
I think it is. It's like a bit of an obsession.
Yeah.
And, I look at your business a similar way you look at mine. Like I think, wow, the fact that you're installing similar deck boards on each project, or you're selling outdoor living for every project, and you're, putting in these type of Techo block pavers, and your team is familiar with these products. That's something that I envy, and I've always aspired to when seeing the jobs you do, because I'm like, this is brilliant. Like they know exactly what they're doing. Their muscles are exercised at using these products. Where for me, it's like, so where do these cabinets come from? Oh, never saw these before. Of course, we're doing this tile we've never seen before. There's nothing repetitive about it, and so I'm controlling what I can control to a high level. And then everything in my world is chaos on the job site.
Yeah. I think that's like, especially with a remodel, there's so much unknown with ripping out drywall and ripping it down to the studs and just seeing what you have to work with, where we're either working completely from scratch. It's a new home that doesn't have anything in the backyard, or we're ripping everything out and we're completely starting from scratch. So that is like one huge difference that would probably completely throw me for a loop, like going into a house, ripping something out, and then you kind of have to like reassess, like, okay, is this what I expected that we were going to be dealing with, or are we going to have like a huge challenge on our hands here?
So I mean, I think the organization you see, the stuff I talk about is always putting my best foot forward. I'm always showing like this new thing I'm doing. Yeah. I'm not talking about like, hey, if you look at my tool belt, there's screws that have been there for years. Yeah. I don't know why I'm walking around with these,
That's not, everybody doesn't do that. I thought that was like a necessary part of the process.
I haven't done an IKEA kitchen in years. I have these dowels in here. So yeah, it's, I could, label myself as I have ADHD, I have dyslexia, I have learning disabilities, but I was fortunate enough to find all that out late in life because I wasn't getting tested, I wasn't in the school system, so I didn't really know that I struggled with things. I just did things my own way. And one thing is I really am not productive. It doesn't take much to throw me off my game. Yeah. And so I need the space to be a certain way. An example I'll give you to show you how my brain works versus my wife's brain is we were like moved into a new house, and she put the wine glasses there. And then I kept putting the water glass there. And she's like, but the wine glass goes there. Why do you keep? And I was like, well, then we should label that the wine glass goes there, and then I'll know the wine glass goes there. And she's like, but why would you label it? You don't need to label it. Just put it in the right place. And I was like, I can't do that. Yeah. It needs to be like
specified,
idiot proof, whatever you want to call it. It needs to go easier into that space for me to put it back. Yeah. And being the business owner, it's very easy for employees of mine to like fall into my system because it has to be that rigorous for me to do it correctly. Yeah. And I see a lot of people who don't struggle the way I do, not taking those steps for their employees because their brains work the way my wife's does, where she's like, I put the garbage can here. That's where it belongs. Why are you not putting the garbage can here? Yeah. And I say like, well, if there's no label, who the hell knows where that garbage can goes? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a blessing that I can do this, but it's also because I struggle a lot. If it's not that way, I can't get anything done. Yeah.
Something that really stuck out to me that you just said was, you said you have, these so-called issues. Like I have ADHD too, which I sometimes call my superpower because I feel like it makes my brain work in like a different way, which makes me really creative, and like it also leads me to like be distracted so easily. Like an example, like anytime a plane or a helicopter goes by, I have to look up in the sky until I see it. Every single time.
Every time.
No matter where we are, if I hear it, especially helicopters, if I hear a helicopter, and it's not like I'm obsessed with helicopters. I don't even know anything about helicopters. I just think that they're cool to look at when I see them. So
I mean, it's flying. It's a fan in the air.
It's really cool. So that's like kind of how my brain works. But I think it also like leads me to be a really creative thinker and just look at things different. And you said that you were very fortunate to not know about these things till later in life. So, you know, you almost like you were able to just not look at it like a downfall. It was kind of like, no, I just do this a little bit differently. And I mean, I wish that I had to label things, because we've just had everything kind of be a disorganized mess until somebody recently came on that organized our trailer, because he kind of thinks like you do. Right. And all of our office stuff was sort of a mess until Catherine came along, because she's super organized. So I wish that I had that that mentality where it had to be that way, but I just don't, you know?
Yeah, and it's different, and I think I'm with you on the ADHD being a gift. Like, I can't imagine a brain that worked differently. Like, it's such a hoot to come up with new ideas all the time.
Yeah.
And it's crippling in many ways to not be. The thing I struggle with is, like, I know exactly what I should be doing all the time, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And that, like why am I not working out every day?
Yeah.
And eating kale?
You know, that's what most people do. Most people just work out every day and eat only kale.
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing that? I'm worried about you, honestly.
It's a disability. But I know so many things in my business that I'm like, oh, you should really keep track of this change order. And I'm like, that's no fun. Yeah. I don't want to have that awkward conversation.
Yep.
I'll put that off.
Yeah.
And
it's so much easier putting stuff off. I mean,
it really is.
Why don't people just do the easy thing and put the hard things off till later? I mean, it's just a good way to do things.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's good. I think I just always like to clarify when people are like, you're so organized. And I'm like, I'm a mess. But I'm very like bipolar in the way I live my life. So it's like, my side of the bed's a mess. My side of the bed is ridiculously clean.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing me talking about like this like jump into my Google Drive. What's it look like right now? It's a mess.
I feel like just having a Google Drive is a good thing. Like,
right.
We have a Google Drive, and I'm very proud of it. And it's a mess. Like, it's a complete mess. We have a file with like finished pictures, and like there's hundreds of pictures in there. No organization whatsoever. They're not named at all. They're all just like DJI 664267.
It's like,
and there's like 600 pictures in there.
You already have a copy of this. Would you like to delete this? No, we'll keep both.
When I first started, Sean was like, go find this job from, I was like, I didn't work on that job. I don't know the person's name. And all of the pictures are like DJI. I was like, we gotta do something about this. Yeah. Give me something.
Or there's like, for some reason, there's so many pictures from like a 6-month period that were all named after one client, but none of the pictures are of that client's job for some reason. I don't know how that happened, but it's very confusing.
I'll tell you an amusing sidebar. So when I was back in the Napster LimeWire days, I had I was like curating my my
music library,
right? And it was like when album artwork came out, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna add album artwork so that when it's on my iPod, I can see it, right? And I like accidentally selected every album in the whole thing, gigabytes of it, and changed it to a picture of the Village People. So like to this day, every picture of any album is just the Village.
That's awesome.
And my wife always like cracks up, but I'm like, oh.
That's what we call a beautiful mistake.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not be happy? Like, just seeing a picture, like, obviously you don't want to listen to just the Village People, but if you can listen to something that you enjoy and then see a picture of the Village People, it puts a smile on your face.
It's enjoyable.
Yeah. I'm going to try that. I love that.
You should.
I love that idea. Yeah, I think that's, I'm realizing that we're a lot more similar than I thought. I thought you were like kind of the complete opposite end of the spectrum with organization, like just being so dialed in, and you are to an extent. I think you're like, you're being.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy it more than some people do.
Definitely more than me, like so much. But in my defense, whenever we need something like insanely random, like, do we have one of those like fittings for a thing that we never even installed before? And it's one specialized screw that nobody else makes in the whole world, and it came with this hardware package from 6 years ago that we thought we were going to use on a job. I'm like, let me check the back seat of my truck. And there's always like that one thing that we need in the back seat of my truck, which is a complete mess. But it's come in handy like so many times. I mean, like probably like 5 times. And it's been a nuisance every other day.
See, I can't do that. I'm like the person that like Zach, do you know where? I have no idea. If you can't find it, I can't find it.
I'm just going to go in there and look at the labels. Did you look at the labels? If you can't find it, I don't know.
My previous employer, who I worked for 10 years, was incredibly disorganized. Like his bidding process was, he would go to a job, he'd tell the homeowner to get 4 bids, and he'd beat them. He never did a proposal. That was his system, and still is today. And
how's he doing?
He's doing all right.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still does it that way, but so he doesn't have any bidding. He doesn't have any invoicing. And he didn't have like any sort of tool organization. So he never owned a miter saw stand. We're cutting on the ground, and he would have those 2 like Stanley bins, like the big drag behind that all the tools went inside. And then we would put plywood on top. So we're always just rolling around with plywood. And then if you wanted to get anything, you had to like get in there, push the plywood up, and this is, a low roof van, and then lift up the thing so you've got everything up, and then put your arm and everything falls, crushes your arm, and then it's in like, an injected molded case, and you're like trying to like, get it out, there's not enough room. And I felt like I did a presentation at JLC in Maryland where I met you, and I sort of calculated like, okay.
I remember that. You had your van there.
Yeah, how many hours did I spend a week in my boss's van looking for stuff, and what kind of money did that come out to over the course of a year? And it's a lot of money. If it's 5 minutes a day, which isn't a lot, I probably spent 15 to 20 minutes many days in there, and you're paying someone $25 an hour, which is low now for a lot of trades. It's thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I hate to see we're in this point where it's hard to get people into the trades. We're not paying them enough. We're not giving attractive enough salaries and benefits. Yet we're pissing away time and money on wasting talented labor looking for stuff or running to the lumber yard because we don't know how much stuff there is.
Yeah.
I'm super organized, Zach, and I just recently cleaned out my whole shop and organized everything. And when I was done, it was like 40 bottles of glue, 16 bottles of caulking, like hundreds of pounds of screws that were just out of sight.
Yeah.
And, it's just when things are dialed in, I'm not going to the van every day. I'm not making those walks, and and those like little pennies add up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so many times we've now our trailer's gotten to a point where it's actually pretty organized. We got a new guy on our team that's like, and he really keeps track of like, okay, we're running low on ledger locks, we're running low on plug screws, and he keeps track of it, and he'll be like, okay, do you want me to just pick that up on the way in tomorrow? But previous to that, so many times it was either, okay, I know it's in the trailer somewhere, but it's probably easier to just go to the store and buy more screws because I don't know where they are.
Because if it isn't there,
then I just
then it's an emergency trip.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean that's so relatable. But what I want to kind of get into now, you kind of touched on it, was the importance to you of treating your employees right and being able to give them a good job, a good career with benefits and all that kind of stuff. That's something that's also really important to me. And what kind of like led you to that? Because there's also a lot of people in the trades that run construction companies that are looking to do the opposite. They want to pay people as little as possible, get every little bit of labor out of them, and just burn them up and chew them up and throw them out and find somebody else and have high turnover. So what led you to putting that as such a high priority?
I think maybe I'll go with the superficial thing first to get it out of the way. I'm a little bit conflict averse, so I believe if I, pay people right, if they have a job that they are fulfilled in and they're getting paid and compensated well, I won't be cracking the whip so much that they'll want to come into work every day.
Yeah.
So that is what it is. The other side of it is, I want to build a business with permanence, and it's a fact that every time you have turnover and you have to retrain, you're losing a substantial amount of money, right? So if I can avoid that, then that's financially better for me.
Yeah.
And then finally, we live in New Jersey. It's an expensive state, and our minimum wage is something like $15 an hour, we'll say, and it's probably tough to live in North Jersey if you're making less than $35 an hour. And then you want to add benefits and a car and forget about a mortgage into that. It's not enough. And so I just think there's a lot of belly aching that goes on, especially post-COVID, of business owners who I'm hearing are like, nobody wants to work anymore. What's wrong with it? And it's people want to work in a safe environment that they're valued and getting compensated in correlation to the way inflation has gone up.
Yeah.
And we need to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everything has become industrialized. We can get shoes cheaper, cars cheaper, everything's cheap. Our expectation as consumers is things are cheap.
Yeah.
And then we come in as tradespeople, like from the Stone Age.
Yeah.
Every person's making their own processes. And there's very little efficiency when you compare it to the efficiency that goes on in a factory.
Yeah.
And our prices are so drastically different that it's horrifying to people that they're going to spend, minimum $30,000 to renovate a bathroom when they can get a car that's going to drive 200,000 miles that has all this tech and kit inside of it for the same price. And the money difference is really coming because we're showing up.
Yeah.
We're not, outsourcing it to a different country. We're not getting cheaper labor from a state where the cost of living is less. And so I just feel like we have to figure out how to pay people enough, because if we can offer more money, or at least if I can offer more money and benefits, then hiring's never going to be an issue. And I can always pick the best people to work for me who are going to give me the less anxiety to manage.
Yeah. I think that's always been something that's been a high priority for me, and it is true that you treat people well. I'm probably a little conflict averse as well. Like I want to get along with everybody
right,
and just have a good time, and we just get stuff done. So it is good for that you feel like you're treating them well. There shouldn't be a reason to really argue. And also, I don't want to be looking for somebody new all the time. I want somebody to feel like, hey, I not only am treated really well here, compensated fairly, but also, it's not like we're running them into the ground. It's like we want to have hopefully a good balance for all of our employees. And it kind of reminds me of you're talking about how everything is so industrialized and processes, and that goes back to Henry Ford, who was the inventor of the production line. Right. But his whole thing was he wanted to be able to pay his factory workers enough so that they could actually buy the product that they're making. So I think we have gone away from that so much. It's we want people, and it's all being kind of done by robots and automated and everything. So it's we're getting people in the factories that are just doing the least skilled amount possible and pay them as little as possible, when we need to find a better way to compensate people, because otherwise there's just going to be so many people that are like draining the system.
Right. And unfortunately, the only way I've found to pay people more is to get them to produce more.
Yeah.
And if they're going to produce more, they need to be extremely effective.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm dealing with. That's what I'm trying to figure out. How effective can I make a person?
Yeah.
Because if I'm paying someone $80,000 a year and it costs me what? I'm just going to make up a number, $8,000 to insure them, or health insurance probably would be even more. So say it's like $10,000 a year to give them health insurance, not including a family member.
Yeah, it's about that.
They need to bring in probably $20,000 because workman's comp is going to treat that benefit like compensation. Then we're in a high workman's comp bracket, so we're going to get hit even harder.
Yep.
So we're going to add, I don't know what you're in, but maybe 18%, 12 to 18%, 22% on top of all their income plus
it's a lot.
the benefit.
Yep.
That's burdensome.
Yeah.
And if you want to create that kind of money as a carpenter, like you got to be solo building a deck every couple weeks alone.
Yeah.
It
is a lot.
It's daunting.
To like once you get a couple employees, and we're like a really small company. It's 5 of us, including me. But everybody gets a salary. Everybody has health benefits. And between that, the workman's comp, and just the general liability insurance, for a small company, that's $10,000 a week. It's $2,000 a day. So like every time it rains, it's like, all right, well, there's $2,000
out.
But yeah,
but that's so amazing that you're doing that though, because I mean, you're at the place I want to get to. I
guess we make it seem like that on online or whatever. I mean, we have tons of struggles that we're working through.
I'm sure you do, but
challenges and everything, but
still,
luckily we are able to provide benefits. And thanks, Zach. It feels so good to hear. But yeah, I think that's so important. And one thing that really helped me out initially, because that was always something that people were like, "You're paying guys when it's raining and like nobody's working," and I'm like, "Yeah, like I'm not looking at that cost as like if it rains, I'm not like, oh God, it's rained for an hour. That's $500 or whatever." Yeah, oh God, babe, we can't eat tonight. In fact, I'm looking at it as this is what it's going to cost for the entire year, and like you factor in like it's going to rain some days. So, if you look at it just at that one day, or like it rains 3 days in a week, you're like, oh God, there's $6,000 in rain this week. You factor it in over the entire course of the year, and you factor it into what, it's kind of like an overhead price. Those rain days are going to come, and to keep people, you need to be able to compensate them and be able to pay them when it rains, because they'll find a new job if they only get paid for 2 days that week because it rained. Yep. So it's important to like almost remove that, like the immediacy of that rain day and how much it's going to cost you. You have to just look at it like, I just look at it like it's about $500,000 a year, salary, insurance, workman's comp, health insurance, all that stuff. So look at that number and like, don't look at it on a day-to-day, because it's going to be like, you're going to scream every time it rains. So, yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Last thing I want to get into, because we're probably close to our happy hour here.
We're at about 40 minutes.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
We got plenty of time.
Just feels like an hour.
It's like we've been
I feel like that was it.
Because we're talking about workman's comp.
Yeah, that got pretty deep.
Like yawn.
Oh, yeah. That was
I know.
My wallet hurts.
All right. What I want to get into now is you're doing is it a weekly segment with the Build Show?
Yeah, I do a video a week.
Okay. And I'm sure, anybody that's listening to this probably knows what the Build Show is. That's like the OG YouTube construction thing.
Yeah, it's definitely like where the building science, it's a big influence in the building science community and high quality building. And I watched a lot of Matt Reisinger's videos sort of when I was doing more technical stuff and ripping off and getting information. So when he asked me if I would do some stuff, I was like, heck yeah, I'd love to be affiliated. What an honor.
Yeah.
It's been fun because I get to shoot them in my garage right now. It's easy. It's
And
cool.
what's like the subject matter for most of the video content that you're doing for them? Is it like a common theme? Is it around organization and, stuff like that, or?
It's all tool reviews right now.
Okay.
I'm branching out a little bit, but I sort of started with tool reviews because I was already doing that, and that's sort of the position that they wanted to fill.
Yeah.
But probably be branching out to do some segments on all the mistakes I've made, share,
Yeah.
just regrets I've had, things that typically fail, like that's something that their audience is looking for.
Yeah.
And I think we all are a little bit interested in like how things go bad.
Yeah. I think our last episode or 2 episodes ago was about the biggest mistakes
Yeah.
that we've made in business. Because I think that's like one of my biggest pet peeves in social media and the trades and just like entrepreneurship in general. Like right now, it's like everyone's pretending like they know everything and that everything is so smooth and like they have this cool sports car and it was like so easy.
Right.
All you have to do is follow my system and buy my course.
Buy my book.
It's like I did this in 2 weeks and
Yeah.
it's like that's just not the reality of it. Like running a business is really hard. And it might get a little bit easier. I don't know if it's necessarily gotten easier for me, but like it's just different challenges.
Different struggles, yeah.
Yeah, like the challenges just get different, and that's like something that I think is like really important to just be like authentic about sharing your mistakes. And like people look up to you on Instagram, like they think that you have everything. Like I look at you like he's got everything figured out organization wise. I'm such an idiot. Why can't I just be organized like Zach?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I posted this thing, but maybe I was a little, maybe I'm gonna lose a customer. Like,
Yeah.
90% of the people who follow me are contractors.
Yep.
But then the 2 clients who follow me, I'm like, oh, I don't want to show any weakness because they're only hiring me because I have all the answers and I'm a perfect. They hired me because I'm a perfect being, me.
Yeah. I think it's important when anybody that, has like respect in the community to just like be real and say like, yeah, there's a lot of things that are really hard about this and it's not going to be easy for you and you shouldn't expect it to be. And if you have a lot of challenges, that doesn't mean that you're like inherently a bad business owner. It's just part of it. And like we all go through it. And I think it can be such like a lonely journey being a business owner. Like you feel so alone when you're not connected with like a community. And I think that's one of the things that's been great about social media, connecting with people and, having that sense of community. But if people don't have that and they just look at all these like highlights and everybody else that's so successful and everything's going perfect and they're going through like a rough time with their business, they can feel like just giving up when I think the more that like you can just be real with, no, like we're making mistakes every single day, like probably 5-10 times a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes 20 or 30. Sometimes it's just nothing but mistakes back to back to
I
back.
felt like that so much today because I had people coming up to me like, oh, hey, Zach, love your work. You've helped me out a lot. People giving me mostly positive feedback. And, what are you up to? And I'm like, well, I have a 2-year-old and I've got a 4-month-old and my wife left a very successful career once we had children and she had health insurance. I had to double and then double again my income in the last 2 years, got the business to a very good point. And then I decided to make a hard left because I wasn't being present enough with my children because I was so stressed out with running the business. So I decided to walk away from that and give myself a month to really get everything dialed in. And here we are 2.5 months in. It doesn't feel like it's dialed in. And so I do feel like a bit of a phony out there. I'm like, I don't know. I'm in a real shaky place here. Like I have more experience than I ever have. But I'm shaking in my boots more than I ever have.
I think that's like something that everybody can obviously relate to, and like the more that you like lean into that and just like be open with people about like just that's like normal stuff that everybody goes through. Like I now have a 1-year-old and it's like I've had to reevaluate everything in my life with work-life balance. I used to just go to work all day, come home, edit videos till 12, 1 in the morning, wake up at 5 or 6, work out, go to work, come home, edit videos, like, and I just thought that was like a perfectly normal, healthy way to live. And then, boom, I have an offspring that I have to take care of and like spend quality time with, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe how much I was trying to take on. I need to reevaluate this, and it's something that like is hard to do. And it's been a year, and I'm still like, I don't know. I think it's maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, and there's a lot of feeling like you're failing. You're not a present enough spouse. You're not a present enough father. You're not a present enough boss or business owner. Or you saw so-and-so online and they're, they have 17 kids and their business just hit 20 million and they, are in Disney World for the 15th time this year. And it's like, what am I doing wrong? I'm a piece of garbage and I have no free time.
Yeah. I think it's really important to just talk about that. And I've always tried to be real with that like I'm just figuring everything out as I go. And I think it's cool. I think it means a lot for you to say that to people, because you do have a lot of people that look up to you and, just casually watch your stuff online and are like, he's got everything dialed in. He's got all these processes. I have a tool crate in the back of my van and it's got plywood on top. Right. I almost broke my shoulder today. So I think just kind of being real with that is going to be helpful to a lot of people. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
That you're open about that.
Yeah. I got to be, it feels very cathartic just to complain about this, because I didn't know what I was feeling out there today, but it was definitely like, oh, I'm having this conversation again where I talk about what am I doing? And I'm like, I don't know. Leave me alone.
What are you doing? Huh? You seem to have all the answers. What are you doing with your life?
You want to see my bank account? There's my bank account.
I might look really cool in my bomber jacket and my skinny jeans, but I'm losing it.
This is my son's jacket. I had to stretch it.
And I think everybody can feel like that, whether things like are going really good or really bad. Like, it's just such a roller coaster. Everything will be going so great, but then you have like 2 days where you're just like, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like everything's going wrong, and it just happens. And then sometimes things can like really be going sideways, but for whatever reason, you have a couple of really good days and you're just like, all right, we're getting it back on track. I feel like I take over the world. Yeah. Everything's going to be fine. So I think that's just totally normal. And it can be weird being in a place like this where, you're meeting all these people that only know this version of you that's online. And, and depending on how much of your stuff that they see, they just kind of create a picture of who they think you are. And then, here you are I don't know, I'm in this transition period. I don't know, I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
It's funny. I was thinking about that as well, the persona I put forward on social media. I swear less. I'm a little bit less political. I'm a lot less political on social media, because obviously you're ostracizing people. It's tough to talk about political stuff and who cares what my political belief is if they're just trying to get a kitchen remodel, right?
Yeah.
But I made all these preconceived notions about people I met, say, from the Build Network, and I was going to meet them for the first time and go out for beers with them, and I was like, oh, these guys are coming from Texas. I'll be like the rough around the edges one, and they'll all be like a bunch of prudes. And I showed up, and they were, they gave me quite the run for my money, and I was like, whoa, I was way off with this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, and I'm just wondering, maybe I should change the way I'm showing myself. I don't need to drop F-bombs every other sentence when I'm on social media, but maybe I should be a little bit more authentic, because
I think it's something you can play around
what
with.
It is.
It's can be kind of weird to present this kind of one version of yourself, and I think it's been cool for me to, because the YouTube stuff has its own kind of feel to it, where it's just goofy and highly energetic, and I'm speeding up, running out of a something and using crash noises and like just a ridiculous amount of sound. I love sound effects.
They're so good.
Yeah, like the more sound effects you can put, the better.
Can't go wrong.
There's no cap to that in my mind. Most people don't agree with me, even the people that watch our videos.
I watched this guy on for a while. He's on it's like a cooking channel, but he had all these. You know,
is it
called?
Is it like the guy that does the
ferments?
Yeah,
the sound effects are so good,
I know.
right? Yeah, it's always like.
I know. There's like so many of them, and like then his words will.
Brad something.
I don't know what.
He's from Jersey City.
It's freaking awesome.
So good.
Yeah, it's so good.
I'll
show
check
you.
it out. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
so
the way that he edits stuff is just hilarious.
Yeah.
And like I don't care about cooking at all.
I'm glad you got the reference.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's Alive. That's what it's called. It's Alive.
yeah. Yeah, and it's just about fermented like everything.
Everything.
Cooking with fermented stuff or something. I don't know. I just love his sound effects. They're so good. But like doing the podcast has allowed me to like, have this more like long format kind of platform where we can like really talk about, just be more like authentic and talk about various topics, which I think is cool. So if I feel like I've been able to put more of myself out there and like more sides of myself, not just this like, sound effect loving guy on YouTube that just puts a crash noise anytime. Like there could be any possible reason to put a crash noise and he's going to put one in. But
no, I mean, I learned a lot about you that I didn't know, and it takes a while for that. Like even for me, like you just delete the first 20 minutes of this podcast because I was all uncomfortable.
That's the part we want to lean into. We're just going to cut the first 20 minutes and keep replaying it.
Skip ahead.
Well, I think we now are getting up on our happy hour. Like, should we mention that we didn't have any drinks today? Because it was usually we have a cocktail.
Well,
for the
night is young.
Yeah, and it was.
Yeah, maybe now we'll go have some cocktails.
Yeah. Should we keep recording? How are we going to bring all this
Yeah,
stuff?
how are we going to bring
Well,
this?
if we could get on both sides of the table.
We could carry it, yeah.
We're now going up the escalator. I'm narrating for the people.
Hey, everybody, what's going on?
Yeah. Excuse me, sir.
Make a
Sir.
left here.
Excuse me. All right.
So it's been a frantic. We had to get all the stuff set up. It's been a little frantic, so we didn't have time to get the drinks. But it's the night is young. Yeah. What do you want to closing remarks? What do you want to say to our audience? How about this? What's the legacy you want of Dettmore Construction or whatever new business you what do you want the legacy of it to be? Or the cabinet hanging company? What's that called?
It's called Classic Cabinet Installers.
Yeah, what do you want? What are you trying to build to leave behind? It's such a vague question.
Yeah, I think what I'm working towards now is if the world's slightly better or not, slightly better or not made substantially worse. So like the campsite rule, like leave it better or the way you found it. That's what I'm going for, because just the amount of waste I produce in my business, the amount of garbage I produce, the amount of good materials that go into landfills because we've, my career is a lot of times ripping out perfectly good stuff and putting in new stuff that might just get ripped out. So that's I'd like to get my business to where I'm, hopefully figuring out a way to make up for some of that waste. So I made the world a worse place with the business I've created. So I want to treat people well, hopefully treat the world well moving forward, that at least maybe I can make up for it before I die.
That's a lot of weight to have on your shoulders. Do you just walk around feeling like, I'm just filling the world up with trash from my business? That's a lot to walk around with on your shoulders.
Well, I don't dwell on it too much.
Okay, good.
But
good.
That's sort of my goal, is like try and
just try
and do what's right if you
try to be a nice guy.
Yeah. That's it.
I like that.
Yeah. I wish that, like, in so many scenarios, I've said to Catherine, like, whether we're like working on a contract with a client or like I'm just like, why can't we just write in there like, let's all agree to be cool. I'll sign here. Like, we're gonna be chill about this.
Yeah.
But like, when did it get to that point where it just had to be so legal?
Well, it's a sue each other country we live in.
Yeah.
So I think
I'll sue you.
I'll sue you if you post this. If you share my voice.
I'll sue you.
This is intimate. Only my therapist knows this stuff. How many people listen to this?
I didn't know that all this equipment was for recording. Well, anyway, I think a lot of people are going to get some really good insight from this podcast.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I respect both of you and what you're doing, and it was fun to be here. It was a nice surprise.
Yeah. We'll do it again because we live in the same state.
That's true.
We'll
I do have to see this van.
Yeah.
We can back my van up to yours, and we would have like a little wood shop connected to a podcast.
That would be perfect because
sounds
we
perfect.
keep talking about getting a guest in the van, and we're like, where are they going to sit? There's not really enough
I can
room.
sit in my van.
That would be that's exactly what we need.
We
so
can meet
Yeah.
up somewhere in the middle. I don't know what's between us, but geographically.
lots of, just stuff in Jersey.
Yeah, like IKEA and Elizabeth or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds perfect.
Newark Airport.
See you there next
Next
week.
on the podcast. Why are you looking at that airplane again?
I can't help it. They're so interesting. It's really become a thing where, like
When I started, they told me that was a thing about Sean, and then it very much is a thing.
yeah, Kath,
And I
like,
downloaded
even in
an
the
app.
van, yeah.
I downloaded an app so I could be like, oh, this plane is going from Boston to Miami, Sean. Isn't that interesting? And he doesn't
don't really care
at
about that.
all.
You kind of
He
sound
just
like,
wants
you
to
know,
know.
like the human with the laser pointer where the guy like, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah,
I feel like it would help him. Like, okay, that plane is.
I don't really care where it's going.
No.
I just want to look at it.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
So, and especially when we're in the van, we've built it out so, there's these little windows in front of each of us. So,
Yeah.
I kind of have to, and she, for, probably the first, month or two, every time I do that, she'd be like, what are you doing? And then she'd be like, oh, helicopter. I'm like, yeah, did you see it? I can't see it. But it's, I've really learned to love that about myself. I live very much in the moment when it comes to helicopters.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Not much with anything else, but with helicopters, I am locked into the present moment.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
Let's
Deepak
see that.
Chopra would be very proud of me.
Well, anyway, I think we've said enough. So thanks so much for coming on
Yes,
the
thank you.
podcast, Zach. And till next time, this has been the Hardworking Happy Hour.
See you next week.
Clink.
Let's go get some drinks.